You ever have that moment where silence says everything? That was me sitting at the family dinner table, the one I'd paid for, while my younger brother announced his engagement. His fiancée beamed. My parents clapped. Someone poured wine. No one looked at me. Not a word about how he was living rent-free in the condo under my name. Or how Mom still called me too serious when I mentioned paying off the mortgage. I had learned to smile through it, until that night. My name is Eli Nguyen. I'm 39, the oldest son, the responsible one, the one who got the be there for family talk burned into his brain from the day Dad walked out. I took care of everything after that. Paid off Mom's credit card debt when I was 23. Let my brother Ryan crash on my couch for a few weeks that turned into 2 years. Handled hospital bills when Mom slipped and shattered her wrist. I did it because that's what eldest sons do in families like mine. We carry what no one else wants to even notice. But over time, something shifted. They stopped saying thank you. Then they stopped asking. They just expected. It started small. Ryan used my card to order something for Mom. Then it became weekly deliveries. Just until I land something better, he'd say. That was 2 jobs ago. When I finally asked Mom if she'd talked to him about contributing rent, she looked at me like I'd insulted a guest. He's trying his best. Not everyone's as lucky as you, Eli. Lucky? That word stung more than I'd expected. I was working 60-hour weeks, skipping vacations, pouring every cent into a household that barely saw me as human, just a source. Still, I kept telling myself they love you in their way. Maybe they just don't know how to show it. But then came the party. It was supposed to be for me. Not a birthday party. God knows I hadn't had one since I was a teenager. No, this was a small get-together to celebrate my promotion, something I'd worked toward for 7 years. I even cooked, bought wine, cleaned the apartment from top to bottom. And yet, it turned into Ryan's engagement announcement. They hijacked the whole thing. She said yes, and everyone cheered. Someone handed them a gift bag, my own gift to myself, actually. Even the cake had their names on it. No one even mentioned my new role, not once. I stood in my own living room and felt like a guest, an intruder, an ATM with a smile. That night after everyone left, I stared at the empty glasses and plates, the mess no one helped clean up. And for the first time in a long time, I felt something deep and dangerous stir in me. It wasn't rage, it wasn't grief, it was clarity. They don't see me, not really, and they never will, unless I stop giving them the version of me they've learned to ignore. The next day, I started changing passwords, bank access, utility accounts, mortgage notifications. I wasn't going to make a scene. I wasn't going to scream. I was just going to let them feel the absence of me. I moved back into my own condo alone. Ryan stayed at Mom's place for now. The moment I changed the Wi-Fi password, he texted, "Hey man, the internet's down. Can you reset it?" "No please, no thanks." I replied simply, "It's not my responsibility anymore." He didn't answer. 2 weeks later, the calls began. "Mom, Eli. The power got shut off." "What happened?" "Me. The account's in your name now." "Mom, but I don't know how to do all that." "Me, you'll figure it out." "Ryan, bro, why are you being like this?" "Me, I'm not being anything. I'm just not being what you've always expected me to be." "Do you know what it's like to finally stop bleeding for people who never noticed you were hurt? It feels like guilt at first, then it feels like breathing." I didn't tell anyone. I didn't post about it. I didn't cut them off with drama. I just stepped away, quietly. And that silence, it echoed louder than any confrontation. But the story doesn't end here. Because sometimes when you pull away from a dysfunctional system, that system fights back. And when they did, I had a choice to make. Bend again or finally stand still. You don't really know how people see you until you stop giving them everything they want. The silence I gave my family after the engagement ambush wasn't meant to punish anyone. It was just necessary. Necessary to see what would surface when I stopped filling the gaps they never acknowledged. And it didn't take long. Week 3. The messages turned sharper, less confused, more accusing. "Ryan, so you're just done helping, huh? All this because I didn't toast your promotion, Mom. I don't know what's gotten into you, Eli. This isn't like you. Uncle Dan, out of nowhere. Your mom's been crying. She said you shut her out. That's not what good sons do." And that's when I realized They weren't upset because I was gone. They were upset because I was no longer useful. I didn't respond right away. I needed to breathe. So I drove to the coast, a place I hadn't visited since Dad left. It was one of the only places Mom never liked going, so it stayed untouched by family noise. Just wind waves and the sound of my own thoughts. I stood at the water's edge and asked myself the question no one else ever had. What do I want? I didn't want revenge. I didn't even want apologies. I just wanted the freedom to be something other than the fixer. That night I wrote an email. Not dramatic, not angry, just clear. Subject regarding recent silence. I understand this change is uncomfortable for all of you. But I've spent years being the first call when things go wrong. And somewhere along the way that stopped feeling like love and started feeling like obligation. I'm not angry. I'm just done being taken for granted. Please don't mistake my boundaries for hostility. I wish you all well. I clicked send and waited. No one replied for 2 days. Then Ryan texted, "Wow, real mature. Hope it makes you feel big." I didn't respond. A week later, I got a call from my cousin Tracy, someone I hadn't spoken to in years. "Hey," she said hesitantly. "I know things are weird, but I just wanted you to know I get it." That sentence cracked something open in me. You do. Yeah, they did the same to my mom, you know. After Grandpa died, she handled everything. Then they froze her out when she asked for help. I exhaled. It was the first time I didn't feel crazy. "You're not selfish, Eli," she said before hanging up. "You're just awake now." Then came the escalation. 2 weeks after that call, I received a certified letter. A formal notice. My mother was trying to remove my name from the deed to her house. The house I'd helped save from foreclosure 10 years ago. The one I'd dumped over $30,000 into for repairs and taxes. All done under verbal agreements and blind trust. Apparently, she told her lawyer I was withholding financial assistance maliciously and creating undue emotional stress. I sat there holding the paper. For a long time, I felt nothing. Then slowly, my hands started shaking. Not from rage, but from the weight of realization. They never saw this as partnership, only leverage. I made one call. Not to them, not to any family member. I called Mara, my longtime friend and real estate attorney. "I'm sorry it took this for me to finally ask you for help," I said. She didn't sound surprised. "You've been too patient, Eli. For too long." We started pulling documents, bank records, wire transfers, receipts for repairs, emails, texts, photos of before and after renovations, proof that I wasn't being vindictive. I was being erased. Mara drafted a reply on my behalf. It wasn't a threat. It was a request for mediation. "We'll start there," she said. "But Eli, if they want war, we won't flinch." For the first time, I wasn't the one bending. Meanwhile, Ryan started telling people I was taking Mom to court. He posted about it, claimed I was greedy, selfish, ungrateful. It spread fast through the family. I woke up one morning to messages like, "She gave you everything and now this. You're trying to steal the house she raised you in. After all she's done." No one asked what really happened. No one questioned why a man nearing 40 was still financially dependent on his brother. No one talked about the years I kept them afloat while working double shifts. All they saw was what he painted. Because it's easier to rally around the victim than to face the person who quietly stopped enabling the lies. I stopped answering the phone. I kept working. I went to therapy. I bought a bike and started riding again. Something I hadn't done in over a decade. And slowly, something shifted. Not in them, in me. Here's the truth people don't tell you about boundaries. They don't always bring peace. Sometimes they bring war. But they always bring clarity. And in that clarity, I stopped asking for them to understand me. I only asked for them to respect what I could no longer give. Then one day I got a letter. Not from a lawyer, from my mother. 3 pages handwritten. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. It began with, "I don't know who you are anymore." It ended with, "I raised you better than this." No apology, no ownership, just sadness weaponized as guilt. I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer. I didn't need to read it again, because I finally understood something fundamental. She never really knew who I was. She only knew who I was when I was useful. And yet I wasn't angry, just tired. Tired of holding up a house built on silence, shame, and sacrifice. Tired of pretending that love should always come at the cost of yourself. But the story wasn't done unraveling. Because when you remove the foundation holding a family's dysfunction up, sometimes the whole house starts to crumble. Some cracks don't show until they're no longer being filled. When I stopped patching the gaps, the walls began to split fast. It wasn't just the utilities Ryan forgot to pay. It was the way the mail piled up at Mom's door. The way my uncle's tone shifted from concerned to suspicious. The way I started hearing things from neighbors before hearing them from my own blood. One called to say they saw Ryan arguing loudly with someone on the porch. Another asked, "Is everything okay with your mom?" She hasn't answered the door in days. No one in the family had called to check on me in weeks, but suddenly they were asking for favors again through passive updates veiled in gossip. It all came to a head when Mara's assistant forwarded me an email. It was from Mom's lawyer. They'd dropped the deed removal case. No explanation, no apology. Just a line: client has withdrawn the petition. No further legal action at this time. Mara called me right after. She folded, she said. Probably realized she'd lose. I should have felt victorious. But what I felt was a deep, hollow ache. Because the house I helped save, it wasn't a home anymore. It was just another battlefield we all pretended wasn't covered in scars. A week after that, I got a voicemail from Ryan. Slurred angry. "You happy now, man? You broke her. She's not eating. She's barely sleeping. You wanted to teach us a lesson. Well, congrats. Hope your little tantrum was worth it." I didn't call back. Because I'd done enough explaining, enough defending, enough trying to justify boundaries in a place that fed on guilt. But still, I couldn't fully detach. Not yet. I drove by the house one night late. The lights were off, porch light flickering. Ryan's car gone, mailbox overflowing. I sat in my car for a long time, engine running, wondering if I should go up and knock. But I didn't. I drove home instead and cried the whole way. A few days later, Tracy messaged me. "You okay? I heard from Aunt Mai that things are tense." I told her the truth. That I wasn't okay. That I felt like I was watching the slow collapse of something I'd spent decades holding together with duct tape and duty. That the worst part wasn't their anger, it was realizing they never truly knew me. They only knew the role I played. She replied, "I used to think being strong meant never falling apart, but sometimes walking away is the strongest thing you can do." Then something unexpected happened. My mother called. I didn't answer, but she left a message. Her voice was shaky, not rehearsed. For the first time, it didn't sound like a performance. I cleaned in the attic today, found some of your old school projects. You always worked so hard. I don't think I ever said thank you. Not really. I don't know how we got here. I'm sorry, not just for the house, for all of it. You didn't deserve to carry so much alone. I wish I'd said that sooner. I listened to it 3 times, not because I didn't believe it, but because it was the first honest thing she'd said to me in years. I still didn't call back, not out of spite, but because some wounds need space to heal, not reopening. And even as I ached to repair what we'd broken, I knew some families only find honesty when they lose their shield. And in ours, I'd always been the shield. Meanwhile, Ryan spiraled. He lost his job again, got into an argument with a cousin at a family dinner. Tracy messaged me. He blew up at Grandma. Called her manipulative in front of everyone. I've never seen him like that. I didn't say, "Now you see it." I didn't say, "This is what I've been warning about for years." I just said, "Sometimes when the structure falls, you finally see who was holding it up." One morning, I woke to find a letter slid under my apartment door. No stamp, no envelope, just a folded piece of paper in Ryan's handwriting. "I messed up. I blamed you for everything because it was easier than looking at myself. I'm scared, Eli. I don't know how to do life without someone catching me. And I think, deep down, I always assumed you would. I'm sorry. I won't ask you to fix it. I just needed you to know." I sat with that letter in my hands for an hour, silent, still. Not crying, not raging, just feeling. And in that quiet, something in me shifted. Forgiveness, I've learned, isn't about letting people off the hook. It's about letting yourself off the hook of constantly reliving what they did. So I didn't text him back. I didn't run to save him. But I let the anger go. And that was the real freedom. I made tea that evening and looked around my apartment. It was quiet, simple, mine. And for the first time I realized I wasn't lonely. I was alone. There's a difference. The collapse had happened. The house, the relationships, the illusions. But in the rubble, I found something I didn't expect. Myself. Not the fixer, not the provider, not the son with a to-do list and a bleeding heart. Just Eli, a man learning to live for himself without shame. Some endings aren't loud. They don't come with slammed doors or dramatic ultimatums. Sometimes they arrive in the form of stillness. A voicemail that doesn't get returned. A letter read folded and put away. A decision that stays unspoken but permanent. That's how my family unraveling ended. Not with fury, but with silence and space. And for the first time in my life, I didn't rush in to fix the mess. I let it fall. In the weeks that followed Ryan's letter, life slowed down in the best way. No surprise calls, no guilt-laced requests, no thinly veiled obligations disguised as love. Just quiet. At first, it felt unnatural. I was so used to the chaos, the drama, the constant expectation that I would clean up someone else's storm. But then something shifted. The stillness became comfort. Not emptiness, not loneliness, just peace. I started taking care of myself in ways I never had before. Not the performative kind of self-care people post about online. I mean real, boring, beautiful care. I made breakfast every morning. I rejoined the gym I quit 5 years ago. I slept 8 hours without waking to financial panic or emotional dread. And slowly, I began building a life that wasn't about anyone else's needs. I picked up the phone one afternoon and called an old friend, Leah. She used to work with me back in my mid-20s. Sharp, grounded. Always had this ability to see through the noise. "You're alive," she said when she answered, laughing. "I am." I smiled. Took a few breakdowns, but yeah, alive. We met for coffee the next week. What started as a casual catch-up turned into a 2-hour conversation about everything family burnout, grief, and what it means to start over when you're already halfway through life. She looked at me at one point and said, "You look lighter." And I realized she was right. There was no single moment where I declared I was healed. No epiphany that erased the pain. But healing isn't a straight line. It's moments, small ones, that accumulate until you look back and barely recognize who you used to be. For me, one of those moments came when I walked into a house I'd just closed on. Not a mansion, not some flashy redemption prize. Just a small place on the edge of the city with a kitchen that caught the morning light and a garden patch out back. The kind of place I would have never let myself dream of in the past. Because I'd always been so busy, holding everyone else up. I moved in quietly. No housewarming party, no family invited. Just me, a few plants, and a chair by the window. And in that stillness, I started something new. I began writing. Not a memoir, not some big revenge story. Just private pages, reflections, memories, pieces of the version of me I'd hidden under responsibility for years. It was clumsy at first, but with every word I felt more honest. Not performative, not filtered through guilt, just honest. One night, while typing on my laptop with the rain tapping gently at the window, I got a message from Tracy. "Hey, Aunt Mai's asking about you. Thought you should know. She seems softer lately. A little less defensive." I stared at the screen, unsure what to feel. Tracy followed with, "No pressure, but if you ever want to talk to her again, I think she's finally listening now." I didn't reply right away. Because forgiveness isn't about rushing. It's not about rescuing the people who hurt you the moment they show a hint of regret. It's about readiness, and I wasn't sure I was ready yet. But I appreciated the gesture. Because for once, someone in the family wasn't demanding. They were simply offering. A few days later, I sat outside on my small porch sipping tea and watching the sunset. And I thought about what rebuilding meant. Not just houses or finances, but identity, self-worth, trust. For years, I'd measured myself by what I gave, by how useful I was. If I wasn't fixing, solving, or providing, I didn't know who I was. But now I was learning that value doesn't have to be earned through suffering, that love isn't something you prove by sacrificing yourself, that being whole doesn't mean being needed. It just means being. I didn't cut my family off completely. I sent my mother a birthday card. No letter, no call, just a simple note that said, "I hope today brings you peace." She never replied, and that was okay. Because closure isn't about their response, it's about your release. Ryan eventually got his act together, or started to at least. Tracy said he found work at a mechanic shop part-time. He moved in with some friends, not on anyone's couch. I didn't reach out. I didn't need to. He had my letter, and I had his. That was enough. A few weeks later, Leah invited me to a small gathering at her place. Just a few friends, some homemade food, nothing big. I hesitated. The old version of me would have declined out of habit. But I said yes. That night, surrounded by kind, honest people who didn't want anything from me, I laughed. Really laughed. Not the polite kind. The deep belly kind that comes from being fully present. And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Not just okay, not just stable. Joy. Rebuilding your life isn't about proving anything. It's about reclaiming the parts of you that got buried beneath everyone else's expectations. And when you do, quietly, gently, without needing applause, that's when the real healing begins. Some stories don't end with a door slamming shut. They end with one left quietly ajar. Just wide enough for possibility. It had been 7 months since I stopped fixing everything for my family. 7 months since I stopped being the version of myself they expected. In that time, my life had changed not explosively, not all at once, but in slow, patient layers, like stone reshaping underwater. I had a home now. Not just a place I paid for, but a place I wanted to be. I had friendships rooted in honesty, not utility. And I had clarity, a kind I didn't know I needed until the noise was gone. But even with all that, there was still one loose thread: my mother. We hadn't spoken directly since her voicemail months ago. Just that one message. The attic. The apology. No follow-up. No how are you? But then, something happened. One afternoon as I was Human gave me pause. I didn't respond right away. I went home, poured some water, sat on the porch, and stared at that message like it was a question I hadn't prepared for. Because it was. Not a question of forgiveness. A question of readiness. The next day, I texted her back. Okay, Sunday, 11 a.m., at the park by the lake, just us. That Sunday, I arrived early. It was quiet, still. The kind of Texas morning that carries both the chill of winter and the scent of something new. I brought nothing with me. No papers, no lists. No need to explain. She arrived a few minutes late. Hair pulled back. A jacket I hadn't seen in years. She looked smaller somehow, not older but less composed. She sat on the bench beside me, but not too close. Neither of us spoke at first. Then she said softly, "You look well." I nodded. "I am." Another pause. Then, "I've been thinking a lot. About everything. About you. And me." Her voice cracked, not dramatically, but from a place that felt real. "I was so scared when you pulled away. I thought I was losing the only person who ever stayed." I didn't respond, not out of coldness, but because I wanted her to finish without rescue. And then I realized, maybe I never really let you be a person. Just a role. The helper. The one who fixed everything. Her hands twisted in her lap. "You didn't deserve that, Eli. You didn't deserve the silence when you needed support. You didn't deserve to be punished for saying no." I sat with her words. Let them land. Settle. Then I finally said, "I needed you to see me, not just use me." She nodded. Her eyes filled but didn't spill. "I see you now. I may be late, but I'm here. I won't ask you to come back. I just wanted you to know. I'm listening now." We sat for a while in that quiet. Not trying to fix, not trying to erase the past. Just existing in the honesty of the moment. After 20 minutes, she stood. "I'll go now. I didn't want to take too much of your time." But I reached out gently and touched her arm. "Walk with me for a bit." She smiled, small and unsure, but grateful. We walked the loop around the lake slowly. We didn't solve everything, but something shifted. Not in the past. That stays the same. But in us. And that was enough. In the weeks after that, we spoke occasionally. Not often, not out of obligation. Just when it made sense. Ryan didn't reach out again, and that strangely felt okay. Some relationships end with closure. Others end when you no longer need one. I didn't wish him harm. I just didn't carry his weight anymore. That's the thing about boundaries. They're not walls. They're doors with locks. You decide who earns a key. One afternoon, as I was tending to my tiny backyard garden, I realized something. I didn't feel like I was starting over anymore. I felt like I had arrived. Not at a finish line, not at some grand success, but at myself. That night, I got a message from Leah. "Hey, someone at the firm is looking for a consultant for a restructuring case. Thought of you immediately. Interesting." It was the kind of thing I would have ignored before. too tight, too burdened. But now I had energy, curiosity, direction. So I replied, yes, let's talk. The next morning I brewed coffee, sat by the window, and thought back to the version of myself a year ago. The man who held up a crumbling family with both hands. Who mistook sacrifice for love. Who thought silence was safer than saying enough. He didn't disappear. He evolved. He learned that survival isn't the same as living. That saying no isn't cruelty, it's clarity. That you don't have to earn your worth through exhaustion. If you're listening to this story and wondering when it's your turn, let me tell you, it's not about waiting. It's about choosing. Choosing to reclaim your name from everyone who misused it. Choosing to let go of people who only call you when they're drowning. Choosing to forgive not for them, but for your own peace. And above all, choosing yourself. Without shame, without guilt. Because no matter what they taught you, you were never just what you gave. You are allowed to walk away. You are allowed to heal. You are allowed to start again. And if you do, you might just find that the life waiting on the other side of pain feels like freedom.